Hello, this is Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer.
Welcome home.
Soar into tower. We are ready for takeoff.
Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
Hey, it's Amy from DVC Clubhouse.
Hey Clubbers, it's Scott from DVC Clubhouse.
Hey, it's Kathleen from DVC Clubhouse.
Welcome aboard. It's Phil from DVC Clubhouse.
Hey, everyone, and welcome back to the Debrief podcast brought to you by DVC Clubhouse. This is Amy, and I'm joined this week by Phil. Hey, Phil.
This is the first time you have ever announced just Phil with any bit, 1 iota, 1 ounce of enthusiasm in your voice. Thank you for making me feel good about this.
I didn't think I said just Phil. I think I just said
No,
Phil.
I put that word in. Usually like, and this
Oh.
week I am just joined by Phil. There's
Just-
usually like a sad
just
trombone.
Phil.
You've got this look on your face, but you faked some
wah.
enthusiasm there. That was great. Thank you.
Well, I did mess up the intro right before that, so
I can keep that in, you know.
I was out of practice. It's been a long time since we've recorded one of these. I think it's been like 3 weeks. So
I think it has. We had to plan ahead. We were just talking about it between the holidays and travel and business travel and pleasure travel and everybody all over the place and kids and you name it. None of us have been available for like 2 consecutive days at any point in time.
yeah, and it's been a hacked 3 weeks. So my brain had to make room for other things. The intro was way in the back of my brain, and
had to
I
dredge
forgot
deep
to
for that one.
access it. I forgot to like take it out of the archives for for tonight. So I'm joined by Phil tonight. Kathleen and Scott were otherwise engaged this evening, but they will be back next week. And the gang, I don't know if the gang will all be together next week, but there will probably be at least 3 or 4 out of 4 of us next week. So
We need less busy lives and more Disney. That's what we need.
I know. Well, in fairness, if it is 3 out of 4 next week, it will be because I will be at Disney. So I will not be here. I'm just going for 2 nights, a short little holiday trip for the Clubhouse holiday reunion meetup that we're doing on the 16th at Animal Kingdom Lodge at Victoria Falls Lounge. And then the next night, I'm going to Jollywood's. This time, typically when I do these short trips, I just go by myself. But I invited my cousin to come with me because she's also had a crazy life lately. And her husband had a golf cart accident over the summer. He was riding a golf cart and hit a bump and it flipped over and he broke his arm and he messed up his foot. And so she had to cancel a vacation right because that happened 2 days before vacation. And she's been needing to help him a lot because his dominant arm is broken. So I thought she might need a little trip. I was like, listen, it's only 2 nights, but it's 2 nights at Disney during the holidays. So it'll be
I
quite
did not
magical.
have that on my bingo card. I had to cancel a vacation because of a tragic golf cart accident.
Golf can be dangerous, people. Be careful out there.
Wow. And we've had to cancel trips because of illness back in the pandemic because Emily broke her ankle, surgery, but we've never had to cancel it for a golf cart accident.
Well, there's a first time for everything for people
No,
out
I'm
there.
just going to stay out of golf carts. That's just not going to happen.
So we're going to go and we're going to do Jollywood nights together. It's the first time I'm going to be doing that. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I don't know that she's ever been to Disney during the holidays. And if she has, it's been a very long time. She was probably like a teenager or younger. So I'm excited to go to Epcot with her and go to Festival of the Holidays. It's always fun when you go to Disney with somebody who doesn't go frequently. She's been, it's not like she's never been there, but she doesn't go that frequently. So I think we're going to have fun together. So I'm really looking forward to that quick little 2-night holiday getaway.
I could use 2 nights. We're still, I think the family I just looked is 54 nights away from our next stay, and I come in a week earlier than that. So still a ways off, and we haven't been since May. So you're beating us even with your 2 nights.
Yeah, well, you're within 2 months, so it'll be here before you know it, hopefully.
Yeah, and with the holidays in between, it's going to fly by. I think I've got like 5 business trips between now and then. Dear God, am I going to be looking forward to that?
Yeah. I think everyone right now is in a place mentally where everyone just wants to be on vacation. So,
That's usually my default state.
yeah. So anyway, um tonight you want to talk about the latest DVC news. We've got recently, I think it was in this past week, the DVC very unceremoniously, by the way, just added in that resale contracts, there will be a $500 fee to transfer the contract between owners.
For resale.
Right, for resale contracts. Um, and I think that was not something that they really publicized. It was people kind of found out. At least that's my understanding, is that people just kind of found out in the moment. Um, and so, I have some thoughts around that, in terms of just really what DVC is really trying to do here, and their attempt with things like, we had that episode where we talked about membership magic beyond, where they're really trying to make resale less and less attractive for people, between perks, and then now they're adding in this $500 fee to transfer the contracts. And they also just announced, or sent out last week or the week before, the dues for
Yeah, the dues
2026. And they,
were just over 2 weeks ago, I think. I remember getting my statements.
yeah, and those all have gone up. I think everyone went up more than people would have liked them to have gone up.
Yeah,
So
that one I've got some negative thoughts. I mean, it is, from what I've been able to piece together year over year, the biggest average increase that we have seen as members.
and it's I guess that we are looking at a situation where we have these resorts. They're all older. Many of them have been having their refurbs, um, within the past couple of years. I mean, not more frequently, not more frequently than they have in the past. But I think just facilities wise, the facilities maybe are, because they're getting older. It's like, it seems like every time you turn around, there's like some major project happening where, like, remember that the boardwalk had all that plumbing issue for a while. They just
Yeah, that's not new,
totally.
though. I think Boardwalk has had plumbing issues since day one. Let's tackle the 500 first, because I could play both sides
Okay.
on either one of them. So, what are your thoughts on so my thoughts on the $500 charge are pretty simply, I get what you're saying, that they want to disincentivize resale contracts. I understand that. They'll do what they can, but it's written into the contract. It's allowable. It's a huge business. They're never going to stop it. But if I'm playing devil's advocate, there is a lot of paperwork that needs to be done on their end. They're setting up accounts, they're transferring contracts. There's a lot to be done. So realistically, from a business corporate mindset, $500, I'm not even sure if that offsets the cost of the time they've got involved to do the transfer for the members in a resale contract, a sale that they're not making anything off of, that is in fact costing them money administratively. So I can at least understand that one. And there are parts of the dues increase I can understand as well, and we'll get to that. I don't know that it was necessarily nefarious. They certainly snuck it in. They weren't going to announce it like, hey guys, big DVC news, new $500 charge on resale contracts. They're going to continue going down that road. They obviously make far more money on their direct contracts. That's why they do everything the way they do it. But from a business standpoint, if I've got to do a whole bunch of administrative work and tie up my staff, then yeah, I want to get paid for that to some extent.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, I, it doesn't really impact me either way. I think a big question for people is who's going to pay it. And I mean, I just think, why not just split it between the buyer and the seller? That way, it's only 250, and on top of the all of the other, how much is 250 really within the grand scheme of how much you're spending on your resale contract? Um, I mean, I guess maybe it's more that you're paying upfront, and maybe that's a deterrent not even a deterrent, but just a pain in the butt for people. Because I really don't think that 500 is actually really enough to be a deterrent, but it just feels like little by little, there are just all of the little things add up to where you can see how people might say, you know what, I think I'm just going to look at direct because it has all of these perks and, you know, uh, I don't know. But I think that you're right. I mean, I think that especially, you know, as somebody who has purchased a resale contract, the amount of time that it takes in between the time that you close and the time that they actually transfer the membership over to you, it can be a few weeks. And
I'll say this, if you want to tell me it's $1,000 and I get it in 3 days, then now we can talk. That time it takes to transfer everything and move it is interminable.
yeah, and I mean, and it's and I remember just, you know, calling after a while saying like, you know, when is this going to happen? Because when you buy direct, you get the day that you purchase, you have access to the point. When you do resale, it is a process. I
When we
mean,
bought our first contract, she walked out of the room and 5 minutes later she walked back in and it was done. I think it was a month when we bought our resale contract.
yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure now. I'm talking about 2002, but I vaguely remember purchasing and then immediately going online to book because we were so excited. Like let's use this thing now. And but I think I would be interested to see the statistics, and I'm sure that they exist somewhere. One of these companies, just to know what percentage of resale buyers are already owners, and so does that not matter as much to them? I mean, although I just said as somebody who purchased, I was already an owner, and I really wanted to be able to have access to those points because when you buy something and you spend that money, you want it. And not have it be like lingering out in limbo waiting for Disney to transfer it. So, yeah, I mean, I doubt that the $500 is going to make it go any quicker. I think that it's going to be the same process. Now it's just going to cost $500. And I'm sure that it will end up being a negotiation at some point as to who is actually going to pay that. But it seems to me it would make sense that it would be split between the buyer and the seller.
You'll have to pardon me. I'm doing math real quick for our next discussion. But yes, I completely agree with everything you just said.
What are you calculating over there?
The average percentage increase over all the resorts, because I have the list in front of me and I was just curious what the overall average was.
I think that it's something like 6.38%. Because I did a Google search, and I think the Google AI that's what they told me. Do I still have it up?
6.38.
That's what it is, right?
Yep, the maths are mathing.
Yeah, that's what Google AI told me, 6.38.
Yeah, I don't trust that AI stuff. I had to do the real math in my head, an advanced math degree, and look where it got me. Multiplication, addition, and division.
I didn't actually ask AI. I asked Google, and then AI decided to butt its response in first.
Yeah, I have found that. It's about 14.6% wrong on average, and I just made that number up. But I think it crap in, crap out. Never checks its sources.
But if
you never know
AI
what's
can
coming
make
back.
it up, so can you.
So let's talk about that. So I'm just going to go through the list real quick and give you the percentage increase by resort. So Animal Kingdom, 5.3. Alani, average 8.25 because they've got the subsidized and the not subsidized. Bay Lake is 9.06. Beach Club, 7.6. Boardwalk, 6.8. Boulder Ridge, 6.3. Cabins at Fort Wilderness, 3.4. Copper Creek, 6.2. Disneyland Hotel, 7.3. Grand Californian, 8.2. Floridian, 4.9. Hilton Head, 7.9. Old Key West, 6.7. My Beloved Poly, 5.1. Riviera, 4.4. They didn't do badly, but they're kind of new. Saratoga, 7.6. And Vero averages about 4%. Those are substantial.
They are substantial, for sure.
I went first on the 500, and I've got some thoughts on this. What are your thoughts on the dues increase?
Well, I'd started to say it before we launched into the $500 conversation, and one of my main thoughts is that a lot of these resorts now they're older. These are aging resorts that get a lot of use. Um, the pools, I feel like a lot of the pool areas have been needing to have some work done, and I know it's all part of this maintenance happens all the time. This isn't like the first time they're doing it, but I would imagine that as these resorts get older, the maintenance needs change. And I mean, my gosh, I'm just, as somebody who lives in an old house, it's like eventually the things that you just keep updating, you need to replace because they just go. Or
Yeah, there is
actually
a
any
shelf
human who,
life on everything.
yeah, even, and I'm experiencing that in my own body right now. So
Isn't that the truth?
so maintenance is a little bit more expensive on my body now too.
And it
So I
gets
can
more
relate.
difficult. You've got to
Yeah.
dig way deeper.
Yeah. So I mean,
You used
I
to be able
do
to
think
just
that
change the wallpaper. Now I got to break everything down to
yeah,
studs.
exactly. So I mean, I do think that there's an element of that. And I mean, we just saw like the beach club and yacht club. They opened in like what, November of 1990, and they just had a very long closure on that pool because I'm sure that there was a lot that was old and that needed to be replaced, much more than just like a regular closure for regular maintenance. And so I feel as though that that could be factoring into it. And like you said, Riviera, theirs was kind of low, but Riviera is kind of new. So it's not going to have a lot of the aging issues that a lot of these resorts have. I mean, when you look at Saratoga Springs, I mean, they opened in what, 2002, 2003?
Yeah, Saratoga's up there, 7.6%. They're on the higher end.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that if you look at the age of these resorts, you can imagine that they probably need, and whether it's they know that there are issues or they're being proactive because they're anticipating that they're going to be, because I don't know if maybe they got blindsided by whatever issue was going on with the Stormalong Bay pool, because it felt like everyone felt kind of blindsided by how long the pool was going to be closed when they announced that closure. So I don't know. So that is the one thing that comes to mind for me is Disney World is it's an aging, it kind of strikes me when I think about the first time I went to Disney as a teenager in 1991, how new everything really was. Like, I didn't know. I was young, so I didn't know. But when I went to see the beach club, I didn't know then that it had only been open for, 4 months. And beach club and yacht club were brand new. Although Boardwalk wasn't built, it was built not too long after that, within the next decade. And when we talk about, and you and I talk about it a lot on the podcast, and when you and I chat about just how great the 1990s were, that's
The
when
Disney decade, for goodness sake, it was incredible. Everything was bigger and better and grander and newer and moving forward. And the Disney difference was actually a Disney difference at the time. It was, outside of the late 50s when Disneyland had their explosion, the early 70s for Magic Kingdom in Orlando, the early 80s for Epcot. Then you had that immense Eisner initiative of the Disney decade. And now everything since then has just started to gradually go downhill. Yeah, that's a whole other conversation, but I couldn't agree more.
but when you think about how much they actually built in the 90s, all of that is now old. It's the and while yes, they have updated it, put on, some hard goods, refurb, some new paint, new wallpaper, reimagined some things. The bones of these places have to need some TLC, I would imagine, especially because of how used they are. Like there are people in and out, toilets are flushing constantly, lights are on all the time. It's So that's the only thing I can think of is that it's becoming more expensive. First of all, we live in a more expensive.
That was going to be my
Everything's
point. Yeah.
everything is more expensive right now. And when you add how, when you have aging properties plus how expensive things are right now, it kind of, it actually isn't that surprising. I mean, it's annoying, but not that all that surprising.
I completely agree. So when you look at what the dues go into, so you've got operating costs, housekeeping. We know what has happened to minimum wage. We know how difficult it has been to get staff, and we know what they have to pay people now to get them through the door. That has without a doubt increased substantially. I can tell you as a business owner, the cost to keep my employees, health insurance, benefits, everything has skyrocketed. Utilities, I don't know about the rest of the country. Rhode Island is up about 40% in our utilities. Transportation, front desk operations, again, that's all staffing. Member services, all staffing. Maintenance and refurbishment, interiors, landscaping, repairs, rebuilds. Has anyone priced lumber in the last 3 to 4 years? Has anyone priced what it takes to put a contractor through the door in the last 3 or 4 years? All of that has gone up appreciably. I mean, I don't think it's out of line to say it's gone up 25 to 50% nationwide. Real estate taxes have inevitably gone up. I mean, Disney fought that pretty hard, but they still go up. And then they've got to put aside reserve funds, and they've got to continue looking towards what it's going to cost in the years to come with all of these costs continuing to escalate. So honestly, when I look at what our just general costs are as a family, groceries and utilities and repairs and maintenance and appliances and everything else under the sun, I've gone up a lot more than 6.39%, which is what these raise. So if you're looking at it from a strictly consumer standpoint, yes, it's a big bump. 6 and change on average is a lot of extra money to be throwing at it. But when I look at it, if I look at my family as a business, we have gone up far beyond that. So I think they've done a pretty good job at controlling those costs. And you mentioned something, and this is strictly anecdotal. I have absolutely zero information, data, or facts to back this up. But what I have seen in the last few years is there is such a decided lack of respect for the properties, for the rooms, for the amenities on behalf of the guests that it is both shocking and disgusting. Nobody takes care of things anymore. They all treat it like a rented room versus like something that they're part of. They don't treat it like they treat their appliances and their homes. And I've seen way more scuffs. I've seen way more things broken as we go into rooms. I've seen all of this, in my mind, societally has just increased, and that's going to contribute to higher maintenance costs, and we've got to pay the price for that. I will say that Florida has some of the strictest timeshare law in the country. I would argue probably the strictest timeshare law in the country. I don't think Disney could get away with raising these without some justification, and I think if there weren't that timeshare law in place, you'd probably see much bigger increases. I think they're actually constrained by the state of Florida for how great the increases are. So, I mean, as a poly owner, 3 and change, I'll take that. But I also know that, we're also offsetting the Polynesian dues across the board because of the new tower and everything, being nicer and newer. And now you've got a greater spread of those dues coming in. But when you look at the resorts that have had the biggest increase, Aulani, a very high maintenance property. They have always said that. Bay Lake Tower, 9%. Bay Lake is just hopefully finishing an enormous refurb that is going to factor into that. They were due for it. Beach Club Villas, 7.57%. I can't imagine what the refurb of Stormalong Bay cost. That was closed for, a year? Somewhere in that vicinity. It was a long time.
I think it was around 7 months, maybe.
I mean, it seemed like it went on forever. That was a very big money project, and obviously DVC had to offset some of that. Disneyland Hotel in Grand Californian, state of California, plain and simple. They're always going to be bigger because the state of California continues to pile on costs. Grand Floridian's not awful. Hilton Head has traditionally been known as a very cheap property to buy, a very expensive property to maintain. That's not surprising. What is surprising to me, actually, is that Vero is at roughly 4%. Thank goodness for an inactive hurricane season, because you would have seen much bigger numbers on that. Saratoga Springs, 7.6%. That resort, as beautiful as it is, starting to get a little long in the tooth. It just needs more repairs. I understand that the dues have gone up appreciably, but I don't think, looking at the numbers and what has been done, that it's particularly awful. Obviously, we've discussed it. I'd like to see some more amenities. I'd like to see some benefits come back. I'd like to see a little better service, a little more upkeep. But I think as a business, they're doing their best to keep it somewhat reasonable.
I think Disney is it has become a luxury. I mean, I think vacation in general has become a luxury for
I told you
people.
before this episode started, I just shelled out $4,000 this afternoon for new annual passes for our renewal. That felt like giving birth. So yeah, Disney is a luxury 100%, and they're charging as if it's a luxury.
Yeah, and I think that, it's sad because you want this to be an accessible experience for people, but you can't. The operating costs are just way too high. Now, look, I mean, I don't want to get into a conversation about, how much their sea-level suite is making and whatnot, but
Yeah,
even if you
executive
were to
bonuses. You really want to have that discussion?
Yeah, no, I do not want to have that conversation because the reality is that isn't money that would be reinvested in the parks. In my opinion, it would be pay a better wage to the people that are working there, but that wouldn't make a dent in the operations of all of these parks across the country, because there's just everything is just expensive, and I can't, you know, it, it's hard because there's so much valid complaining or valid, let's call it valid critique about the quality of things at Disney versus what we remember from the 1990s. But there's also valid, I mean, there's so much validity in what you're saying about the way guests treat things. There's so much validity in how much things cost now. And just the quality of materials, I feel like, has just gone down because it's of cost. So it's hard to imagine what it would take to operate at a level that would make people feel like the that the experience hasn't declined.
And I think one plays into the other. You see it when you're walking through the parks. Do you know how much we paid for this vacation? We're going to do whatever the heck we want. I'm not going to care about how I abuse things or how I abuse the people or how I push other guests out of the way. We paid a lot of money for this vacation, and we're going to get every red cent out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there definitely is a sense of entitlement that people have as well. That plays into the way not only just the way that they treat the things, because people there's also a sense of entitlement in terms of just expectation. And I, I don't know, it's hard to know what is in today's day and age where everyone can broadcast their complaints, their opinions on social media. It's hard to know, like, what are the things where there really has been a decline, and where are the things that people are just have a sense of entitlement and are just complaining because that's just what people do and they like to be heard on social
Yeah, I
media.
mean, you and I have had this discussion before, and I think we've fallen on opposite sides of it. I completely agree that social media, like this dues increase, when you break it down, I think it's very defensible. But you look on social media, good God, DVC is just gouging us left and right. They went up on average 6.4%, let's call it. What have your costs of your home and your family and all of your maintenance gone up? I don't think that's bad. But at the same time, we were just talking about it before the episode started, and I think we're going to do an episode about it at a later date. They just released all the after hours dates and pricing. Disney used to be open till midnight on a very regular basis. Now, if you want the pleasure of staying until midnight, it's $200 a head. So they've taken some things away that were considered amenities, without a doubt. I was never a big fan of the Magical Express, but that went away. I love the baggage service. That's coming back in some limited fashion. They've certainly done a great job of monetizing the things that they used to give away for free. And I also think that, we're seeing a lot more overfull garbage containers and things of that nature. I think those things have slipped a little bit. But you also have to wonder how much of this is nostalgic and idealized memories versus what actually happened in the past. I think that we get in our head these things that used to be amazing, where at the time maybe weren't as amazing, but as we look back on them, we just need something to complain about. So we complain about every little tiny thing. I mean, look at some of these Facebook pages. I mean, I'd like to think that we on our Facebook page are fairly positive. We like to keep things light and friendly and positive. But there's a couple of Facebook pages that I'm a member of, and I'm just there to watch the show. The things that people complain about are just ridiculous, and they will scream to the heavens about it. So yeah, I think that there is definitely an argument to be made that Disney can still be wonderful. It is what you make of it, but people now feel like they have this far-reaching voice on social media and elsewhere, so they're just going to use it to be negative because they think it makes a difference. It doesn't, but they think that.
Right. It's a megaphone, and the loudest people use it to be the loudest and to be heard over everyone else. But it's a good point that you bring up because, and it's one that I've thought about when I compare things, I'm comparing them to my perception when I was 14 years old, 20 years old, even 30 years old. Perception changes over time based on your life experience, based on the things that you're exposed to, and just based on how much you are exposed to something. And I think that when you are a big, especially DVC members go to Disney a lot, and I think that when you experience something frequently, the novelty wears off. And when the novelty wears off and things become familiar, it's easy to then find the flaws. I mean, it happens in relationships, that everything, it's like the first time you go to Disney, it's the honeymoon period, right? It's like the first time you're experiencing it, everything is the best. This is so magical. It is so great. I love it here. And then you go again and it feels like, you're excited to see it again. And then each time you go, you still are excited, but
Then there's the 7-year itch, the midlife crisis. It all comes piling down on you.
right. And then you're like, you know what? I think we can go on a Disney cruise instead. So there is some validity in the fact that as we experience something often and the novelty wears off, we just become critical because that's the way the human brain is wired. So and that's why I think it's always so exciting when something new opens because it gives us the ability to experience something with fresh eyes. Now, I do think even it's hard to experience things with fresh eyes when you've been tainted a little bit and you are kind of when you feel like the experience isn't measuring up to what it was 20 years ago. And so you're looking at even the new things through the eyes of somebody who is like, well, this isn't going to be as good as it was in 1990. So,
Yeah,
so
it's
it's
starting
like,
to feel like my grandparents. Like,
yeah,
I don't stop at that
yeah,
stop sign
right.
anymore because like, no, it's different than it was in 1948. I can assure you, it's not as idyllic. This is just different. Things progress, things change. It is what it is.
Yeah. But it's like the back in my day, I'm like, I feel like maybe I need to stop. And I don't think that I'm like a huge complainer, but I do notice the things. And sometimes I feel like I am a little bit like, well, back in my day, it was this way. So, and I will say, and I know you always make fun of me because when I say I haven't been in a while, and it's like only been 3 months, but I feel like I haven't been in a while. And I'm really excited to go back. And I know that I'm going to love it. And so, there is something where, when they say distance makes the heart grow fonder, I think that sometimes DVC members need to like take a step back a little bit so that they can actually miss it and not be in a place of just constant critique. Like just go and enjoy it.
No, you're absolutely correct. We were in a cycle there where it was 2 to 3 times a year, and I found that my experiences, again, my perception of my experiences, were getting worse and worse. And I think that we were just going too much. We were making comparisons, and we were trying to repeat old nostalgic moments, and they were just different vacations. And again, the human brain it finds the faults. But on those years where the trips were a little further apart, I had been going 2 or 3 times a year to Walt Disney World. We had one year where we went very Disneyland centric. And as much as I love Disneyland, I couldn't wait to get back to Walt Disney World. And now we've done a bunch of trips in a row to Orlando, and I can't wait to get back to Anaheim. So you're absolutely correct. You need to give yourself time to miss it and not go into burnout with any one thing. And I think this is a perfect example.
Yeah, for sure. And so I think maybe these increases, I mean, and also it's not like we were paying. It's not like it was ever flat. Like every year we were paying. So it's not like you can't be like, oh, they're increasing it so much. But let's just hope that this is to enhance our experience. Disney is trying to hopefully provide a guest experience that is going to be one that's going to continue to make us want to go back year after year, even when we can become critical of it.
Right. And again, look at the opposite side of this. Let's just say that, okay, we're going to put a 24-month moratorium on dues increases. We are not going to increase dues for 2 straight years. Can you imagine the screaming and the uproar and the outcry when things aren't maintained and staff isn't paid and things are broken? This is just simply the cost of doing business. It's simply the cost of keeping it running to keep your experience as lovely as possible when you visit these resorts as a member, period.
Exactly.
All right. I think that was a good wrap up. What do you think?
I think so too.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you everyone for playing along. I know we have a huge amount of new members. I desperately hope some of you are listening in. If you are, give us a little shout out on the page. And if you get a chance, head on over to Apple Podcast, give us a 5-star review so we can continue with this silliness and this little project of ours that has now been going this is going to be our 3rd Christmas. Dear Lord, it's been going a while. All right. Longer than I thought. Amy?
And if you don't belong to our Facebook page, you can find us on DVC Clubhouse. We're also on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And until next time, we'll DVC you real soon.
See you guys.
And so our journey comes to an end.
Oh, no, please, can't we go back to page 1 and do it all over again?
We started this thing together, and that's how we'll finish it.
Because that, my friends, is where the magic lives.
Happily ever